It started like any ordinary afternoon, sun setting low, streets buzzing, and a teenager named Malik walking home from the gym, earbuds in, hoodie up, and minding his own business. But in a matter of seconds, everything changed. A pair of squad cars pulled up with lights flashing. Two officers stepped out, voices raised, hands twitching near their belts. Malik was confused, unsure what he had done, but one thing was clear. They thought he was someone else. Someone dangerous. He tried to stay calm, remembering everything his parents taught him. But things got tense fast. The cops shouted commands, closing in, their tone sharp and aggressive. What they didn't know was Malik wasn't just any teenager. He had years of disciplined training in martial arts and self-defense, not to fight for violence, but to protect himself if he had to. And in that moment, every second counted. As the situation escalated, one officer reached out, grabbing Malik's arm. That's when everything shifted. Malik's instincts kicked in, not with anger, but with focus and control. What happened next made the cops take a step back, literally, shocked, speechless, regret written all over their faces. This wasn't about disrespect or defiance. It was about standing your ground with calm strength when you're wrongly accused. But the real question is, what exactly did Malik do that left the officers stunned? And what came next when backup arrived? Stick around, because this story is just getting started. Malik had always been the quiet one, focused, disciplined, and respectful. His parents made sure he stayed out of trouble, and he spent most of his time at school, helping out at home, or training at the local martial arts center. He started learning self-defense when he was 10, not because he wanted to fight, but because his dad believed knowing how to protect yourself could save your life one day. Turns out, today might be that day. The officers didn't know any of that. All they saw was a tall teenager in a hoodie, walking alone in the wrong part of town, or at least, that's how they saw it. There had been a report earlier about a robbery nearby, and someone had given a vague description. That was enough for them to act, but what they didn't expect was for Malik to stay completely calm when they surrounded him. No panic, no yelling, just focused eyes and slow, deliberate movements. As one officer tightened his grip, Malik moved, not to attack, but to free himself using a technique that redirected force. It was fast and clean, not violent. The officer stumbled, surprised, but Malik didn't run. He just raised his hands, clearly showing he wasn't a threat. That moment of hesitation changed the energy. The second cop put a hand on his radio, calling for backup, while eyeing Malik with a mix of confusion and caution. Who was this kid? And why did he look more in control than the people with badges? As the backup unit pulled in, Malik stood still on the sidewalk, heart pounding but his face calm. He had learned long ago that in situations like this, staying centered was everything. But now, with more officers stepping out and hands drifting toward holsters, he could feel the pressure rising. One wrong move and things could go from tense to dangerous in seconds. Still, he held his ground, trying to speak, but no one seemed interested in hearing his side, at least not yet. Meanwhile, across the street, a small crowd had started to gather. A woman filming with her phone, a man asking loudly what the teen had done, and a few others watching with concerned faces. The energy shifted again, this time not from Malik, but from the people witnessing what was happening. The officers looked uneasy now, caught between control and public scrutiny. One of them barked at the bystanders to step back, but the cameras kept rolling. What they didn't know, what none of the officers knew, was that Malik's older brother, Jamal, was already on his way. A former army medic, and now a local youth counselor, Jamal had seen this kind of thing happen too many times. Malik had managed to text him just before the second officer had grabbed him. Jamal was driving fast, his mind racing, hoping things hadn't gotten out of hand already. And in the middle of all this was the real question: was this a misunderstanding that could still be fixed, or had it already gone too far? The air was thick now, too quiet, too heavy. Malik could hear the buzz of police radios, the distant hum of traffic, and the sharp clicks of cell phone cameras recording everything. He stood in the same spot, hands visible, jaw tight, eyes darting between officers who still didn't seem sure what to do. One of them paced slowly behind him, another stood in front, speaking into his mic, voice low but tense. They hadn't cuffed Malik yet, but they hadn't let him go either. Then came the moment that nearly broke everything. A third officer, just arriving, didn't know the full situation. He jumped out of the cruiser and moved fast toward Malik, shouting and pointing, clearly assuming the worst. Malik flinched, just slightly, not out of fear, but out of instinct. Years of self-defense training had taught him that sometimes that tiny hesitation can mean everything. But to someone who doesn't understand, it can be misread in the worst way. The crowd grew louder. He didn't do anything, someone yelled. A woman's voice broke through the noise, shaky but clear. "You've got the wrong kid." But the new officer didn't stop. His hand was already reaching down toward his belt, and in that split second, everything seemed to freeze. Malik's breathing slowed, and his muscles tensed, not to fight, but to survive. And just before anything could happen, before the next move was made, a car screeched to a stop at the corner. Jamal jumped out, yelling his brother's name, eyes locked on the scene unfolding in front of him. Jamal's voice cut through the chaos like a sharp blade, urgent, commanding, full of fear and authority all at once. "That's my brother. He didn't do anything." The officers hesitated, startled by the sudden interruption. Malik turned his head slightly, recognizing the voice instantly, but he didn't move his feet. He knew better. Any sudden motion could be misread. Jamal pushed through the edge of the crowd, flashing his ID, shouting, "I'm a licensed counselor, and you're making a huge mistake." Just when it seemed like things might de-escalate, a voice crackled through one of the officers' radios. "Suspects spotted fleeing the scene, same build, same hoodie." The officer, who had been on edge from the start, looked up, locking eyes with Malik. His grip tightened around his taser. "We've got confirmation," he said sharply. The tension exploded again. The crowd gasped. Jamal stepped forward, trying to explain, but was quickly held back. But here's where things took a sharp, unexpected turn. From the other end of the street, another teen, same build, same hoodie, came sprinting out of an alley, weaving between parked cars. The real suspect. In that moment, everyone's heads turned. Confusion swept through the scene like a wave. Some officers began shouting, others scrambled to respond. Malik stood frozen, caught in the center of it all, still being treated like the threat. The situation had just gone from dangerous to chaotic, and now, with the truth running right past them, the question wasn't just what would happen to Malik, it was whether anyone was even paying attention in time. Chaos erupted as officers turned their attention toward the real suspect darting through traffic. One took off running. Another shouted for backup down the alley. In the confusion, the officer who had been closest to Malik hesitated, finally lowering his taser just slightly. Malik didn't move, still rooted to the spot, breathing heavy but controlled. Jamal rushed to his side, finally breaking through the wall of uniforms. "You've got the wrong guy," he repeated, pointing at the fleeing teen. "This is Malik. He just came from training. I have his gym log. Check the time stamp." One of the senior officers, now realizing the gravity of the mistake, stepped forward, motioning the others to stand down. The tension in the air started to crack, but it didn't disappear. The crowd stayed quiet, watching closely. Cameras were still rolling. Malik slowly lowered his hands, his voice steady. "I told you I didn't do anything." The officer nodded, eyes flicking to the ID Jamal now held up. "We'll need to verify," he said, but his tone had changed, less aggressive, more careful. Within minutes, confirmation came over the radio. The teen they were chasing had been identified, and Malik was officially cleared. Relief spread through the crowd, but just as the officers began to apologize and back away, a voice from behind said, "I got everything on video. Whole thing, including what you almost did." It was the woman from earlier, phone still raised. The officers froze. That was the twist no one expected. This wasn't just over, it was just beginning. The officers stood there for a moment, silent, their eyes avoiding the camera. The woman with the phone didn't flinch. She just kept recording, not out of spite, but to make sure the truth didn't disappear. Jamal wrapped an arm around Malik, finally able to breathe, though his anger still simmered under the surface. "Let's go," he said quietly, guiding his brother away from the scene. The crowd slowly began to break up, people shaking their heads, whispering to each other. One man clapped Malik gently on the shoulder. "You handled that like a champ, kid." Back at home, Malik sat at the kitchen table, still trying to process it all. He didn't feel angry, at least not yet. Mostly, he felt tired. His mom held his hand, tears in her eyes. "You did everything right," she said.